Alright, so we have some pretty enormous, monumental breaking Star Wars news. This comes to us from Vanity Fair. Dave Filoni has been promoted once again, but this time his new position could change the future of the franchise. This could possibly be some very good news, but what I'm seeing from a lot of Star Wars fans is frustration. Where was this up until now? It's about time Lucasfilm has a shake-up, and before you ask, no, Kathleen Kennedy is still in charge, but Dave Filoni's new promotion is going to change the way Star Wars shows and movies work going forward. He's going to have a more hands-on role earlier in the process. Let's dive straight into this. Dave Filoni has a new mission in the Star Wars universe after guiding Rosario Dawson's force-wielding hero to distant, celestial realms in the first season of Ahsoka. The writer, producer, director who started out working alongside George Lucas on the animated Clone Wars show nearly 2 decades ago has ascended to a new position at Lucasfilm, one that will give him input into all the galactic storytelling going forward, something which I must say is very good news. He tells Vanity Fair, "Now I'm what's called Chief Creative Officer of Lucasfilm," which by the way is the same job title as Kevin Feige for Marvel. So what does this mean? Well, according to Dave, it places him into the development process much earlier and in a much more expansive capacity than his previous advisory duties. He said this, "In the past, in a lot of projects I would be brought into it. I would see it after it already had developed a good ways. So that's what's going to be different. He's going to be brought in right from the word go, and that's going to give him more creative input in terms of maybe writing, producing, and general advice to various creatives. He can put his foot down and say no. So in theory this could be a net win for Star Wars. However, imagine if he had been promoted before the Kenobi show. How different that would have been. We often call him the successor to George Lucas, understanding this galaxy better than most. We do know he consulted on The Acolyte, but as he says, in the past, including for that show, it was input after the fact. From now on he's going to have a say from the start. This is pretty enormous. Vanity Fair go on to say, Filoni will now work more directly with Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy and alongside Carrie Beck, a veteran producer turned head of development, to originate and shepherd the next generation of Star Wars shows and movies. So when you really think about it, Dave is truly in the driver's seat. Yes, Kathleen Kennedy is still president, but now a lot more creative direction, and direction here is the key word, falls to Dave. They go on to say, after spending many years involved in the creation of Star Wars animation, including the Rebel series, which as you know is my favourite, he became increasingly involved in live action as a producer with Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. Here is another quote. "In this new role, it's opened up to basically everything that's going on. When we're planning the future of what we're doing now, I'm involved at the inception phase. Music to the ears of millions of fans. So for those fans unhappy with the direction Kathleen Kennedy has taken the franchise, there is now another senior voice. So what could this mean? Well, I was thinking in terms of what he's done, we can expect probably more animated shows going forward. I know fans want to see more with Captain Rex and Cody, more stories after the Bad Batch. While they say it's not been greenlit just yet, another season of Ahsoka, probably more films set during the Mandoverse, and an interesting one, he might decide to be a bit more experimental with the movie side. He might fulfill the wishes of George to look at a more microscopic level of the galaxy, the wills, the cosmic force. That is mere speculation. Dave Filoni goes on to say this, "I'm not telling people what to do, but I do feel I'm trying to help them tell the best story that they want to tell. I need to be a help across the galaxy here, like a part of a Jedi Council almost." And I love this comparison. That's a really good way to put it. He's providing wisdom and guidance. And while to some this may not sound like a lot, that could be the difference between a showrunner not understanding the fundamentals of Star Wars, as we have seen time and time again, and getting it right. He could be that difference. He described his responsibilities as understanding the intent of the filmmakers and being a resource to them. Now this next sentence is scrumptious, based on his mentorship under Lucas himself. That's right. I really hope Lucasfilm is learning, because it seems as though they're bringing back the George Lucas aspect. I'm not saying George himself is going to work on anything, but Dave Filoni was essentially his student, and his years spent steering the Clone Wars, Rebels, and now Ahsoka. He says this, "Literally hours now of Star Wars storytelling I've done, before pausing to rethink his syntax. See, I even phrased that like Yoda." And you know, I don't want to sound too cheesy, but Dave kind of is the Yoda at Lucasfilm in terms of his wisdom, if we're thinking of the Jedi Council, and he goes on to say, if we get it wrong, fans will tell us. Not everything Dave has done with Star Wars has been perfect, but it has been some of the best. And I know he's a big fan of Rogue One and Andor, so I'm hoping we do get more spin-offs after season 2. more of what I like to call the Rogue One universe. I've got to be cautious when saying this because it could sound like an overstatement, but it does feel as though the relevance of Star Wars could be back like never before. We needed something like this today. Whether you agree with this or not, there are so many fans out there who feel so apathetic to recent projects. Headline after headline, review after review of fans saying the magic is lost. They've Marvelized the franchise. It's not what it could be. It's lost its touch. And fans think Lucasfilm are out of touch with their fans. Well, today, as symbolized in this beautiful hug between Hayden and Rosario, it feels like there is a new hope. Could this mean Star Wars is back in a huge way? I'm keeping my fingers crossed. They're not joking when they say Star Wars is undertaking a universe-shaking change. With the influence of Dave, people like Doug Chang, the future might be very bright. And one blessing in disguise is how the strikes have hopefully opened Disney's eyes to what they're doing wrong. And because the Rey film hasn't filmed yet, there is a potential that Dave gets more involved and hands-on with that, because his movie is still quite a while away, so I imagine he's going to give some creative guidance, as will the likes of Pablo Hidalgo and the usual suspects at the studio. But going forward, there might be a more unilateral, focused, and Lucas-centric vision for where Star Wars should go, and let's not beat around the bush, what Star Wars should be in 2023 onwards. I really want Star Wars to succeed. To many of us, it is our everything, it's our favourite franchise. And especially for fans who feel as though recent projects have not delivered the calibre and quality they expect from Star Wars, this could be a new beginning. I want to know what you guys think though. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you agree with what I've said? And how do you feel about Dave Filoni taking on the role of CCO? Is this going to mean some good things for Mando Season 4, for Ahsoka Season 2, and for what type of projects are announced? This could really shake things up. It might even mean the end of spin-offs and the start of something very different. Well, we definitely needed it. And I understand in giving my perspective, there are tons of fans who feel the same way, but there are others who are not too convinced Dave Filoni is what the franchise needs. Not everyone sees him as a saviour figure who only does good and only provides some of the best Star Wars content. Some fans think he is detrimental to the advancement and the potential of what Star Wars is and needs to be. That is always going to be subjective, but I'm going to be patient. I'm going to see how things pan out. It's too late for some projects like Skeleton Crew and The Acolyte, but considering Bob Iger wanted a shake-up, it's going to be interesting what Star Wars looks like in 5 to 10 years. The next celebration, announcements, we could be in for something radically different. And if you missed earlier's video, go and check it out. I posted about some Andor news, some Mandalorian Season 4 stuff, and even looking at the new Star Wars comics. And if you enjoyed this video, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.